I went to Minneapolis and I lived there for like 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I did a lot of the work on the script. And so a lot of the inspiration is really coming out of my hometown and that whole world, you know.
Hi, Tracy. How are you?
Hi there.
I'm loving Unprisoned so far. And I was just wondering, how much do you relate to Paige yourself? What was your inspiration for telling this story this way?
Well, I would say that I 100% relate to Paige because Paige and I have basically the same issues, daddy issues. The inspiration was that, my dad was in prison most of my life. And at a certain point, his last sentence was 19 years. And at a certain point, I started thinking about what's it going to be like when he gets out and how am I going to deal with that? There's a certain safety in having a parent, like it sounds weird, but in prison, in your phone, you don't really deal with them directly, And I knew that when he was in front of me, that was going to be a whole different situation. And I was scared about it. And so I started writing about it because that's how I deal with a big feeling. And I feel like I'm not the only one in this situation. There are millions of Americans who are facing this exact same set of circumstances. And I just knew that there was a story there that needed to be told.
How early on did you know Kerry Washington should be Paige? And what was that collaboration like with her?
I wrote the script like what we say on spec, which means I just wrote it because I needed to write it. I didn't know where it would go or if it would go anywhere. It could have maybe just ended up in my drawer. But I did show it to my agents and they were like, wow, this is really good. And I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can find a producing partner. So I sent it out to just a handful of people and really clicked with Kerry's company. And they were like, we're going to have her read it over the weekend. And when they came back on Monday, they were like, she wants to star. And that was a game changer.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that so much. I also really love Paige's like IG Live therapy sessions. It's like her as a therapist versus her as like a therapy influencer. Is that something that you've like seen a lot of in real life? What did you pattern that after?
I have a social media world where I am a relationship influencer. But really it was about like imagining if I hadn't moved to Los Angeles and become a television writer, what would I be doing? And it's like, I'd be in Minneapolis being a marriage and family therapist, So I essentially gave that to the character as her job. So when Kerry signed on, the pandemic literally happened. I met with Kerry's company on Monday. The pandemic happened on Wednesday.
Oh my God.
And, so I decided as I was working on the script and continuing to develop the script, I went to Minneapolis, which is where I'm born and raised, because I knew it was going to be set there. And I was like, I need to see what Minneapolis is like, not the Minneapolis of my childhood, but the current Minneapolis. So I went to Minneapolis and I lived there for like 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I did a lot of the work on the script. And so a lot of the inspiration is really coming out of my hometown and that whole world,
One of my favorite, favorite's not the right word, but like most interesting, most complicated is like Nadine and Paige. Oh. I didn't expect that story to be as like intense as it was.
Yeah.
What was your approach to having those two facing off?
That's what that relationship was. My dad had a longtime girlfriend who raised me from the ages of 8 to 18. And I kept my distance from her in adulthood. But again, the show is inspired by my real life. A lot of it is imagining, well, what would it be like if my dad came out of prison and reestablished his relationship with her? And how would that impact me? Because I was so affected by that relationship. She was my mom for 10 years. So I really wanted to explore that. And I feel like Brenda Strong did an incredible job of embodying the energy without knowing her at all. Of embodying the energy of a woman who's the kind of woman who'd be in a relationship with my dad is suddenly now your mom, because those two things are not really compatible.
Right. I mean, you have done an amazing job. You've definitely like transformed your life into a Hulu show I must watch. So well done.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you
Thanks
so much.
so much.